How's it going, Rogues Gallery, and welcome to another Grand Archive video here on Red Zone Rogue. Today we have the return of my favorite deck in Grand Archive. It is Tristan. No, it's Tristan, of course. Tristan is my favorite champion in the entire game. This is my favorite deck, and this is a deck that has been powerful ever since it first came out in the Tristan ReCollection Deck. It won the World Championship in 2025 last year, and this year it's already putting up some good numbers. So this is my version of Wind Tristan. We're going to talk about, everything that goes into my personal version, but we're also going to talk about a lot of options that you have for running the deck, because this is kind of like I don't want to say a jack of all trades deck, because it is just a really, really powerful deck, but it can kind of fit the bill in a lot of different metas, which is why it continues to be such a well-regarded and well-played deck. It's so much fun to play. It's literally my favorite deck. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I don't know, hype the video or whatever if you can to push the Grand Archive content out to everyone. And let's go into our top down and talk about Tristan. This deck is so much fun. Let's do it. All right, so here is my Tristan deck as I keep and maintain it. I'm just gonna kind of go through it all and we're just gonna go through it all. So here's the actual deck. We have my material deck and then a lot of what I would call options. I was gonna say hopefuls, but we'll call them options. We'll talk about the main deck and the material deck first, and then we'll talk about all of the options. Essentially, most of it is like sideboard, but some of it is like non-sideboard stuff and alternatives for cards that you can run in the main deck. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This deck is quite expensive because it's running, some of the most expensive cards in the game, but you do have some budget options. They're not as good. Like, don't get me wrong, they're not as good, but there are still options if you wanted to run a less expensive version of the deck. So let's go ahead and talk about our main deck material deck first, and then we'll talk about the actual main deck. As always, got to showcase the beautiful sleeves. We're rocking double Fire Emblem Cypher sleeves for this deck with one of my favorite characters of all time. We have Lyn from Fire Emblem. And the outer sleeve, so obviously we have the character sleeves, but the outer sleeves are Dragon Shield outer sleeves. And I do have an affiliate link with Dragon Shield, in the comment, or not in the comment section, but in the description of the video. You can 5% off your Dragon Shield order if you type in Rogue 5. So if you're like me and you like to use various character sleeves from a lot of different stuff, but you still want to have them protected and still want to have the nice Dragon Shield shuffle feel, because these are matte textured, then I highly, highly recommend them. Use them for all of my decks. For literally every TCG that I play with that I do character sleeves. So, yeah. Anyway, so we have the material deck. So let's go ahead and talk about our champion line. We have just a regular Spirit of Wind. This is a proxy spirit by friend of the channel, Lucky Yuki. But this is just a regular Spirit of Wind. Enters, draw 7. Pretty good. I was running Fractured for a little while, but I found that just the straight draw 7 is good enough. And then we're running your standard Tristan line. So Underhanded, Hired Blade, and Shadow Dancer. I'm not going to spend too much time on these, but just in case you're unfamiliar with this completely, we'll go over it really quickly. So the gist of this is we want to put prep counters on Tristan. And they have a lot of cards that have prep counter payoffs in the main deck, and most of them are finishers like Shadow Strike, which we want to build up a ton of prep counters, remove them all, and have a huge unblockable Shadow Strike where we just kill our opponent in one fell swoop. Tristan Underhanded helps us put prep counters on. On enter, you can put a prep counter on her. If we don't, we get an agility 3 for the turn. Almost always we put the prep counter on, but you might want to do the agility 3. Agility 3 means you return 3 cards from your memory back to your hand at the beginning of the end phase. So you would only do that if you had action, basically, if you had like a fast speed card that you wanted to play and you needed to play it. Most of the time, we're just getting the prep counter. We have Tristan Hired Blade. She is a prep counter payoff. On enter, if we have 2 or more prep counters, we draw a card. if we have 4 or more prep counters, we draw an additional card. So the goal is to have 4 prep counters going into level 2, so we draw 2 cards, but don't be afraid to just go into level 2 and draw 1 card if you have to. There are a lot of times that you do have to, but if you're like me, you're going to want to get those 4 prep counters so you can draw the 2 cards. Really good. And then finally, we have our level 3 Tristan Shadow Dancer. Now there's another level 3. We'll talk about that in the other options. I just run it in my sideboard. Some people run it in the main deck because she lets you go to that 3 and then into this 3. So you can have basically 2 3s, like 2 level 3s. But we're just running Shadow Dancer in our main because we kind of want to go all in and just Shadow Strike our opponent to death. Well, we have some other options too. And so what this one does is on enter, we get 2 Ominous Shadow tokens and you put another prep counter on Tristan, which is great. And then at any time you can remove 2 prep counters from Tristan, and then you change the target of an attack that targets Tristan to one of our Ominous Shadows, which is really, really good. Well, technically to any Fantasia ally, but to an Ominous Shadow. So let's go ahead and pull up Ominous Shadow and kind of talk about what they do. So here's a kind of a standard Ominous Shadow, but we also have some fancy Ominous Shadows. I guess I should... we'll take the cards out. I guess I should set these aside because we were going to want to talk about them. So here's another beautiful token card by Lucky Yuki. But here's like the regular Ominous Shadow. So an Ominous Shadow is a 1/4 that has unblockable, but it cannot attack unless our champion has dealt damage to the target this turn. So the idea would be to hit our opponent with Tristan and then have all the Ominous Shadows like jump in and gank them. It also says if damage we dealt to Ominous Shadow, prevent 3 of that damage. So the redirection effect from Tristan onto the Ominous Shadows are really, really good. And so we have that built-in layer of protection. Once again, I like using these ones. These come with the Reco deck, so you should have a bunch of these. But I think 4 is decent for the deck. But there are some versions you might want to run more. I'm a big fan of the Ominous Shadows. For our Divine Relic, I'm running Grand Crusader's Ring because it just lets us draw a card. I've seen other people run Quicksilver Grail. I've seen people run the new Providence. I don't own a copy of that, so I'm just running the good old Grand Crusader's Ring. Nothing beats Grand Crusader's Ring. Good old Grand Crusader's Ring. I actually think the other 2 cards, there's good justification for them, but I'm running the GCR. Next up, we have Windwalker's Boots. Fantastic card. This just gets us prep counters every turn, and then later we can cash us in for a card. It's kind of like a GCR, and in some cases a better GCR for us. So it's at the beginning of our end phase. If our champion is awake, we get a prep counter on him. So if you didn't, attack with Tristan, and then if you can banish it later, draw a card if you have 5 or more prep counters. Super good. Great to get this one early. We're also running the new Purifying Thurible. This is what we're using in addition to Backup Charger as kind of like a second Backup Charger. You can pay X and banish it, and then target opponent banishes X cards from their graveyard. If X is 3 or more, you draw a card into memory. So the trick with this is, and with a Backup Charger, is that you materialize the Thurible or the Backup Charger with 3 cards still in hand, and then before your Recollection, you immediately pay for the cost, and you get that card in your memory, and then you recollect and you get them all. So that's kind of what you do with this. So this is sort of like another Grand Crusader's Ring, but this one also hits graveyards, which is really good. And then we have Backup Charger, which is the same thing, but we also summon a Power Cell token rested in addition to putting the card in our memory. And so here we have the Power Cell token. This one, we kind of don't use it for its effect. It says you can pay 1 and you can sack it and give an Automaton +2 attack until the end of turn. We're basically using the Backup Charger to get that card draw into our memory, but we are running a single copy. I know some people like running more than this. We're only running a single copy because the deck list is really, really tight. We're running a Turbo Charge, which says as additional cost to activate it, we can sack a Power Cell. It costs 3, and then we draw 2 cards. So we do have a way to actually cash in our Power Cell by, turbocharging it, which is pretty solid. So yeah, Backup Charger, pretty good. There's a lot of alternatives to Backup Charger if it's too expensive. This is a card that has been expensive in the past. It might be expensive now. You can use the one that came in the Guoja Reco deck, the Tengu. you could put the Tengu in instead. Just any of the ones that cost 0 and you could pay 3 and draw a card in your memory. There's a bunch of them now. There's even some that cost a little bit more that you might want to run, but yeah, Backup Charger is great in this. Just know if you swap this out for something else, take out the other card as well. You'd also want to remove the turbocharge as well. So just keep that in mind if you're building this deck for yourself. Next up, we have another classic. We have the Safeguard Amulet, just a nice little way to protect us from spell-based damage. This is a fantastic card, and actually one of the reasons why you would want to run something like Quicksilver Grail. In fact, the same is true for a lot of these other cards, or 2 daggers, is you can like hide them underneath the Grail to protect them, and then pop them out when you need to. But it's still really great, and kind of a must-have. You got to respect those spell-based damage decks. There's a lot of them out there right now, and there's some, the Safeguard Amulet's always just a nice card to have. So my version of the deck runs Poison Dagger. Everything up to this point, I would say, is fairly standard. Like I said, some people do other stuff than GCR. I am a Poison Dagger stan, and I will always run my Poison Dagger in Assassin decks. I love this card. It just does so much damage. It's a 0-cost card. It enters rested, and you can use its effect, banish it, deal 1 damage to a unit, and then until end of turn, if that unit would take damage, it takes that much plus an additional 1. So it makes all of our Shadow clones deal an extra point of damage. It makes all of our little Chunguses in the deck, we have a lot of little Chunguses, also deal an extra point of damage. It can just, close out the game. I like this more in more Shadow clone heavy decks, and I've kind of toned it back a little bit, but I still really like this. We're also running the Assassin's Ripper. I'm trying to get the cool armament foil on these. Assassin's Ripper is another really good one. It's one of the only cards in a material deck that actually has a cost. Almost everything else in here costs 0. And this one, it costs for a reason. It's really powerful. It's only 2 durability, only attacks for 1. But if you have a class bonus Assassin, so if you're us, then we can remove a prep counter from our champion, and then this gets an additional +2 until end of turn. And what makes this so good is we have cards that let us attack twice. So it'll let us attack multiple times with the Assassin's Ripper for 3 points and then 3 points. So this basically turns our 9 attack Slice and Dice into a 15 attack Slice and Dice, which is just so good at closing out the game. If our opponent's kind of dirtling around and maybe they didn't even level up their champion, you can just one shot them out of nowhere. Yeah, Ripper is very good. And then our final card is Shadow's Claw. This is a free dagger and one that all of our shadows can use. It says as long as we have 4 more prep counters on our champion, we can activate this card from our material deck. So as long as we have 4 prep counters, we just get this. And then a Tristan bonus, Fantasia allies you control can attack using Shadow's Claw. When they do, put a durability counter on Shadow's Claw. So it uses a durability counter and then it gets 1. So you can just basically, your shadows can attack with this for free, which is really, really good. Yeah, that's our 12-card material deck. I'd say it's fairly standard with the exception of Poison Dagger. I know a lot of folks will run the Shadow Reaver in addition to Shadow Dancer, and we'll talk about Shadow Reaver at the end. But yeah, that's kind of like your general loadout. Pretty simple here. A lot of these also are, with some exceptions of like the Shadow's Claw and the Grand Crusader's Ring, a lot of these are very budget friendly, which is pretty nice. A big part of the cost is going to come from our allies, actually. All right, so let's talk about the deck. So here's the deck. It's a big old chunk, but we have it kind of broken down into card types. If you've seen Win Tristan before, you'll know a lot of these cards. So our main finisher here is Shadow Strike. It's a 2-cost, 4 damaging attack with Prepare. Prepare X. X can't be 0. Shadow Strike gets +X, and then if Shadow Strike was prepared at all, it's also unblockable. So the idea is we get a whole bunch of prep counters, and then we one-shot kill our opponent with an unblockable Shadow Strike. We're running 3 copies of Shadow Strike in the main deck. You know what? I'm gonna start scooching some stuff to the side because we got a lot of cards to put down. Next up, we have Slice and Dice. This is a single card that hits basically for 9. It's kind of crazy. So it costs 2, has Prepare 3. Prepare, I should have gone over this if you're a complete, super new to this. Prepare means you remove that many prep counters from our champion. So we want to remove like 10 prep counters from them and then Shadow Strike them for 14. Slice and Dice, we have to remove 3 prep counters. And if you do, then it's prepared. So it's a 2-cost, 3 attack, and it has prepare 3. On hit, if Slice and Dice was prepared, you may have the attacker declare an additional attack. If you do, create a copy of Slice and Dice in the attacker's intent, except it isn't prepared and gets +3. So basically, we attack once, and the first attack goes for 3, and then the second attack attacks for 6, which is why this is a 9. 3 and then 6. You can technically send the targets into different things, but usually you just do this to kill our opponent. We're also running 3 copies of Slice and Dice, Slicin' and Dicin. And then our last finisher and a new addition, and one of my spoiler cards, is Spirel Schwartz Queen. I think this is one of the best Umbra cards I've ever printed. This card's super good, very underrated at the moment, I think. This is a 2-cost, 0/4 unique ally, Cleric, Chessman, Queen, Human. And she has a lot of text, but essentially what she says is you blast your opponent for 6. That's kind of what she says. So on enter, as a spell, deal 3 damage to target unit. So you can actually hit one of your opponent's allies if you want. But usually you just shoot him in the face. You hit him for 3. Then you can banish a card from our hand or memory face down. Then you can pay 2 and then use her effect. Reveal a card banished by Spirel with the reserve cost X. Negate each activation of cards with reserve cost X. Put each card negated this way and each card banished by Spirel into their owner's memories, then trigger her on-enter ability. So what this essentially means is you play her, you shoot something for 3, and then you banish a card from your hand or memory. You usually do it from your memory. And then you can pay an additional 2, use her effect, and then reveal the card that you banished. You negate or counter anything that has the same cost. So say you banished, I don't know, Slice and Dice or something, and you reveal a Slice and Dice, and you negate all the things that cost 2 that are being played. And then anything that's negated and anything that you revealed go back into the owner's memories. So they get it back in their memory, you get it back in your memory, and then you do the on-enter again. So you blast them for another 3, and then you can banish another thing. Yeah, it's really good. You don't have to have a target to do the second effect. So you can just play it for 2, blast them for 3, put a card, down or whatever, and then you can pay the 2, reveal, blast them for another 3, and then do it again. Like, you don't have to have a target. Like, they don't have to be playing something. Because of the wording of Spirel, it just says negate each activation of cards with reserve cost X, not target. So, yeah, essentially this is a 4-cost, shoot your opponent for 6, and then if they don't kill it, shoot them for another 3, shoot them for another 3, and we have ways to replay this with like Reclaim, so we can like do that, do them 6, and then reclaim this back to our hand, and then play it, do 6 them again, like if you have enough cost. So it's really good. It's really good. And you can also just counter their stuff with it. The lowest level is just blasting them for a bunch of damage. So those are kind of our finishers. Let's talk about the rest of the deck. So here's our big chunk of allies. A lot of the allies have great on-enter effects. We have the Windbless Lookout. This is a nice little one. It's just a 1/3 on-enter, we get a prep counter. And then on-enter, we can glimpse 1. Pretty good for setting up future draws, but also just great prep counter generation. We also have Windmill Engineer. This is a 2-cost 1/1, imbue 2. So if you pay for this with 2 wind cards, you get a draw card. On enter, if it's imbued, you draw a card. Super good. So this is another card. We have a lot of little dudes like this that just do something when they come into play. Dream Fairy is really good. I'm a big Dream Fairy believer. It's a 3-cost 1/2 with stealth, and on enter, you can return target ally we don't control to its owner's memory, and then they can't play cards with the same name as something that Dream Fairy put into the memory. So basically, you just lock something out. It's super good, and it's super good at dealing with a lot of pesky things. Anything with Spell Shroud, Dream Fairy gets around because Dream Fairy is not a spell. Yeah, I like Dream Fairy quite a bit, so we're running another 4 of these. This is a card that you will see people run less, or maybe up to 4. I like the 4, but you'll see some like people run like 1, 2, or even 0. We also running Dungeon Guide. Just helps us level up faster. Yeah, this is great. Any deck where you go to level 3, I think Dungeon Guide is perfect for it. And these are my promo Dungeon Guides from friend of the channel, artist friend of the channel, Hanchu. She also did the Dream Fairies, and also she drew Sadie. Now this is the other expensive card in the deck. We have Dungeon Guides being a little spendy, but this is a card that has been reprinted a bunch. You should be able to get some copies of Dungeon Guide. They're floating around, and maybe you can pick up the new Mordred Reco deck and get even more copies of Dungeon Guide. This card, however, is insanely expensive, and one of the hardest parts about building this deck, because Sadie is so good. So she's a 3-cost 2/2. For 2, you can return her to her hand, and then if you do, you put a prep counter on our champion. And then also on kill, we gain agility 3 for the turn, which is pretty nice. So why is Sadie so good? She's only a 2/2. Well, it's that ability to return her to her hand. She's a really sticky, annoying threat, and every time we return her back to her hand, we also get a prep counter. She's just so good, and no other card really does what Sadie does. And that's why, yeah, I just run a 4 of in this. So if you have the 4 Sadies, yeah, put it in the deck. If you don't, well, there's not a lot of other alternatives, but there are some alternatives. Like I said, definitely not as good, like not even close to being as good, but you could consider something like a black market broker, because at the very least, it's a 2/3 that puts a prep counter on your champion. And also it'll have stealth if your champion has 3 or more prep counters. So you can do black market broker as like a budget version of Sadie. It's not the same at all, but it at least gives you the prep counter and is a body. Or instead of Sadie, you can choose one of the other options that we'll talk about, like the Ace and Protector, which is one that a lot of people run that I don't. I don't run the Ace and Protector. I don't really like him all that much. I think he's fine. We'll talk about that when we talk about the other options. So yeah, these are the allies we're running in the deck. A lot of them, like I said, have really good on-enter effects. Even the Dungeon Guide, we have Windmill Engineer, Windblessed Lookout. These are all fantastic. And the reason I mention that is because of Reclaim. So Reclaim is a nice little card. It's a 2-cost card. Return an ally we control to our owner's hand, and this also has floating memory. So this is a great way to get any of these back, and then just to do the effect again, to kind of just grind our opponent out, and we just get a lot of value. The Ace and Protector that I just mentioned does a similar thing. So where's the Ace and Protector? He's a 4-cost 3/4 with Intercept, and then on enter, return an ally we control to our owner's hand. So similar reasons. You know, you can replay your dudes. I like Reclaim because it's fast, and if your opponent's going to try to kill your thing, you can just reclaim it back to your hand and then play it again. Yeah, anyway, good. I like Reclaim. All right, let's kind of blaze through some of this, because we have a lot of standard stuff, I would say. So we have Incapacitate, just a staple. This comes in the Reco deck. Run this in every Assassin deck, basically, except for like Turbo Aggro, Xander, or something. This is a 4-cost, class bonus, cost 2 less, so it's a 2-cost, negate an action card. It's great. Counter their thing. It's super good, and yeah, we wanna run this in any Tristan deck. Next up, we have a new include, Topsy Decree. This one's really interesting. This is a great card. So it's a 3-cost with Imbue 3, and this is a Norm element, so it imbues Norm cards. And I do want to mention that we have almost 50-50 with Wind cards and Norm cards in the deck. We also have a couple, you know, we have a smattering of Umbra cards, but mostly it's like 50-50 Wind and Norm. So you can actually get this Imbue off. So it is a fast speed, and you choose 1. If it's imbued, you choose 2. Your champion gains Spell Shroud until end of turn, which is extremely good. Up to 1 target opponent discards a card from their hand or memory, also very good. Or we choose up to 2 cards from a single graveyard and banish them, also really good. So 3 really, really good effects. Choose the ones that make the most sense in your situation. Topsy Decree, super good. I was running 4. This is another card that I kind of have in my little maybe pile. I found that 3 is probably where we want to be for this version of the deck, but I can see some decks going up to 4 on this one. This one is another one of the expensive cards. And you do have other options for this card as well. So if you don't have Topsy Decrees, you could run something like Innervate Agility, which is a 2 cost as additional cost to activate this card. You de-level your champion, and then you heal 5. And so to de-level, that basically means you put your champion back into you put the top level of your champion back into the material deck. But you can play it again later. And then units you control gain your choice of Stealth or Spell Shroud. So this is a good way to gain either Stealth or Spell Shroud. So it kind of does sort of what Topsy Decree does with the Spell Shroud, but Topsy Decree is so good. Next up we have Veiling Breeze, a nice little protection card. Cares about wind cards, and like I said, we have like 50-50 wind and norm. Reveal any amount of wind element cards from memory until end of turn. If damage we dealt to our champion, prevent an amount of damage equal to the amount of cards revealed. So we want to reveal a bunch of wind cards. Running 3, Veiling Breeze. This is the new art from Phantom Monarchs. I like it. I like it. We also have a classic assassin card with Ensnaring Fumes. This one's super good against a lot of decks. This is a card that I might bump up more copies of in my deck. So it's a 5 cost card, but if you remove 3 prep counters, you can play it for free. And then you just bounce all allies to owner's hand, and then it has floating memory. So it actually helps us because a lot of our allies we want to return to our hands so we can play again. But also just bounces all of our opponent's stuff. And if our opponent is like Guoja, and they flipped if they flip their Fate Stone, and they have like Siryu or something, this just is so brutal against them. So Ensnaring Fumes is great. I'm only running 2 main deck, but I can see running more for sure. Especially depending on your meta if you have a lot of Guojas and stuff. In fact, Stifling Trap, this is a card that you could possibly cut for more Ensnaring Fumes. So Stifling Trap, also good. Also came in the pre-con. Yeah, not much to say. It's really good at hosing over your opponent's like annoying effects, especially like Dungeon Guides is the nastiest one. So it says, if it's not your turn, you can remove 2 prep counters from your champion to activate this card from a memory without paying the cost, which is awesome. It says you deal 2 damage to an ally, then you negate all on-enter triggers from that ally. So this happens after costs are paid. So if you do this on your opponent's Dungeon Guide, they will still have to banish the cards, and then it gets negated. It's brutal, absolutely brutal. Stifling Trap is pretty good. I like this one, but like I said, depending on your meta, depending on what's going on, you can bump this down and then put like more Ensnaring Fumes or something. Mastermind Scheme. This is how you get a huge amount of prep counters. Basically, this just doubles your prep counters. So it costs 6, but it has a level efficiency, so it costs less equal to your level. So if you're level 3, this costs 3. So double your prep counters. Yeah, it's so good. And if you have 8 or more prep counters, you also gain Agility 3. Yeah, this card's great. I know some people have been cutting this card down to like 2 copies, but I like the 4 Mastermind Scheme. I'm all in, man. I want to double my prep counters, and I want to Shadow Strike you for like 20. That's what I'm about. Next up, we have Surveil the Winds, another pre-con card. Well, Mastermind Scheme is also a pre-con card. Yeah, super simple. 2 drop. As fast activation, you put a prep counter on your champion, you draw a card. Yeah, does what you want to do. Prep counter, draw a card. We also have the turbocharge that we mentioned. Yeah, great way to cash in our power cell to draw more cards. And then finally we have Fairy Whispers. This is one that I've also seen a lot of people cut recently, just because they go down on wind cards to help fit like Topsy Decree in. But I don't know, I like Fairy Whispers. It's a 1 cost, fast speed. You look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and then you can put them back on the top or the bottom, and then reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's wind, you put it in your hand. It's kind of like a Brainstorm, but not really. It's a really good card, and so we're running the full 4 Fairy Whispers. And so this is my version of Tristan. We just put prep counters on it. We have a lot of value card draw. We have a bunch of protection built in the deck, and then our big prep counter doublers, and then our payoffs. I really like Spirel because she doesn't care about prep counters like our other 2 finishers do. So we can kind of still kill our opponent with a Spirel if we've kind of like chunked them down a little bit through our little chunguses. And I also, the other reason I also like the Poison Dagger, and then, I mentioned this before, is like, you see all these like little 1-attack dudes. Poison Dagger makes them all hit for 2, which is, it adds up very quickly. So yeah, that is the actual like main deck. Let me go ahead and gather this up, and then we're going to take a look at your options, because you have a lot of options. I would say that this deck, my version of this deck, is fairly close to what a lot of like meta versions would run, with some exceptions. And I kind of pointed those out. Like, I'm not running the Ace and Protector, where some people are running Ace and Protectors. Well, most people do run the Ace and Protector. I kind of tend to go more all in on the Shadow Strike and just trying to kill our opponent faster. I opt for a more aggressive approach to things, which is just kind of like my own play style and how I like to play games. So let's go over some of our other options here. So for the options, I have cards these are cards that I put in my sideboard. So we have Tristan Shadow Reaver. Really interesting card, and I will read this one all out because I think it's so important and so weird and interesting. So this is another level 3 Tristan. As Tristan lineage, Tristan can level into champions of the same base level. When she does, draw 2 cards. Really, really good. This means that we can level into our Tristan Shadow Dancer from this card. It has to be that because it is Tristan lineage, and the only other level 3 Tristan is the Shadow Dancer. But when this enters, we banish top 4 cards of target opponent's deck face down. As long as they're banished, you may play those cards ignoring their elemental requirements. So we get to steal 4 cards from our opponent. This card basically draws us 6 cards. It draws 4 from our opponent's deck when it enters, and then when we level up into Shadow Dancer, we'll draw an additional 2 cards, and then we'll get our 2 Ominous Shadow tokens, get the prep counter, and do all that kind of stuff. So the reason I'm not running this in the main is because it's just really slow. Against any aggro deck, you are not going to be able to get to this. You're going to want to get up to Shadow Dancer so you can get those Shadow Clones, and so you can start redirecting things to them if you need to. But this is really good against any like slow deck. It's so good. So yeah, this is another card that's expensive, and unfortunately you don't have any other alternatives. This is it. So you don't need to run this in the main. Like I don't even do it, but a lot of people do, and yeah, it's something to consider. And then of course we have Nullifying Lantern. I have the nice fancy alternate art, but the regular version is super cheap, and this card is crazy good. Cards in graveyards are norm element. Just hoses over a ton of different strategies. Fire is the main one, but a lot more than that. So yeah, Nullifying Lantern. Always have a Nullifying Lantern. And then we have a handful of other stuff. So we have the Viridian Protective Trinket. I was running this in my sideboard for a long time, but water decks have kind of fallen out of favor a little bit. If your opponents are playing water, you put this in your sideboard. It's crazy good against sideboard. Just makes all of their stuff cost 2 more on your turn, so it makes it really hard for them to do control. I also really like Gloamspire Mantle. I have a version of this deck that just does a lot more Shadow Clone stuff, and this helps us get more Shadow Clones, which is great. Most decks will not run this. I like it though. All right, we also have Blanche as another sideboard option. Really good at protecting your board from non-attack damage. So really good against like Arasana or Wizard, Warrior Merlin, non-assassin Merlin, just anything that does like non-attack damage. Super good. And yeah, I technically am running 4 of these in my sideboard here. This was like my sideboard, but as metas have shifted and DTR and Phantom Monarchs have come out, my sideboard has shifted a little bit, and so I have a lot of other options. We also have the other one-ofs, or the one-ofs to make the full play set. So we have like Topsy Decree, Shadow Strike, Slice and Dice, and Snaring Fumes. These are all cards that have like swapped in and out. You can kind of pick and choose what you think is right. I like the 3-3, but I can see running more. I think I want to run more Ensnaring Fumes though. I think this card is really good. Then we also have the Ace and Protector. Like I said, most versions of Tristan run a couple copies of this. I think it's fine, but I think it's just kind of clunky, and I like what I'm doing, but I wouldn't fault you for putting in the Ace and Protectors. It's good. It's a 3/4, has intercept. It can beat your opponent down. It's solid. And then we also have more meta-relevant stuff. So Scatter Essence, really good into any meta where you expect to have a lot of Phantasias, Fractals, that kind of stuff. This is one that I could see running a full 4 of in the sideboard. I'm also a Penumbral Waltz believer. This kind of hurt me to cut the card. I will probably put this back in at some point. God, this card's so cool. It's a 0 cost, and it's as an additional cost, you can remove X prep counters from your champion. then you prevent X plus 3 damage that we dealt to your champion this turn. Where X is the prep counter. So if you remove like 6 prep counters, then you'd prevent 9 damage for 0, cost 0. And then it has Tristan bonus. If X is 3 or greater, you also summon 2 Ominous Shadows. I love this card. I'm probably going to find a way to sneak it back in the deck, but man, the list is pretty tight right now. But I'm a Penumbral Waltz believer. A lot of people will run Crystallized Destiny. I like Penumbral Waltz more, but other people will run Crystallized Destiny. It's a 3-drop. You could ignore the Fate Stone part because we're not running Fate Stones, but essentially we prevent the next whatever damage. So the next time we be dealt damage this turn, prevent all of it. So if your opponent is blasting us for like 11, you just prevent all 11. And if you prevented 7 or more damage, cards our opponent activate this turn cost 2 more to activate. So it's a really good card. Prevents a lot of damage for just 3. And it's really good against, you know, like Siryu or something like that, where they're just blasting you with Arcane Blasts. So yeah, this is another one you might want to consider running, especially right now against the dragon. And then we have the Innervate Agility that I already talked about. Getting Stealth or Spell Shroud is good. De-leveling our Tristan, and then playing her again, getting 2 more shadows, and then another prep counter is actually pretty solid. So Innervate is really good. And then we also have Gawain. I think this is the most underrated card in the entire game, and I'm not joking. Gawain is a 2-drop 1/1, and then on champion hit, you can sack this, and then you look at your opponent's memory, and you discard a card from it. It's basically like a Thoughtseize. The only downside is if your opponent has a lot of like Interceptors or Taunts. But I really like this card a lot. And those are the main considerations. These are what I would consider like, you know, my main considerations that, you know, I've been playing with and swapping in and out for the deck. I think any of these cards, with the exception of like Scatter Essence, and maybe I like Gawain, but I think these are all main deck viable. So you can easily swap, you know, cards from here with these cards, you know, either for budget reasons or if you don't have them. I think it's all like very viable. Like I said, if you don't have Topsy Decrees, you can put in Innervate Agilities, or maybe you can find, you know, sneak in the Protectors. You can put in more Ensnaring Fumes. Yeah, it's good stuff. There's some other cards here, like Calming Breeze that I've been trying, but I don't really like it all that. I don't like it all that much. I think it's fine. More Reclaims, more Veiling Breezes, Black Market Brokers, like I said, instead of Sadie, and then you know, other spirit options. But that's my list, and I hope this video was helpful. I wanted to give you a rundown of everything that I'm doing with this deck. This is my favorite deck. I play this deck more than any other deck for Grand Archive, and it's one where, you know, I don't play a lot in like big tournaments. In fact, usually if I'm at an Ascent, I'm shoutcasting the event. So this is kind of like my main package, and then I have some cards that I like to test around with, you know, every now and then. God, Penumbra Waltz is so sweet though. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Let me know if you have a Tristan deck and what you've been doing with it. And yeah, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, maybe hype the video, push the video out to everyone, make them watch Grand Archive content, and yeah, just thank you so much for being here and supporting the Grand Archive content. Lots more to come. I plan on doing more Grand Archive content this year than any other year. So hope you enjoy. Hope this video was helpful, and